Haaland obviously gave it the old
He did. Their two number 10s then get a bit ragged and a bit dragged upfield, which opens the midfield up.
And I think they described it as the cha-cha slide.
He swats away Luke Shaw like, I don't know, a dad playing in the under-12s. It's like, it's just in the family five-a-side when your son tries to take you down and you just swat him to one side. Not that I've ever done.
Yeah. Manchester City delivered a knockout blow that Ricky Hatton would have been proud of as they beat Manchester United 3-0 in Sunday's Manchester derby at the Etihad. I'm Will Pugh, that's Sun Sports tactical guru Dean Scoggins. This is Tactics Exposed, and as always, Dino, you have got 5 tactical teasers that fans may or may not have noticed from that big game on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it was the perfect tribute, wasn't it, from Manchester City to good old Ricky. Rest in peace, Ricky. First of all, Haaland, the heavyweight in Man City's attack. Haaland, the magnet. It was a bit like Will Pugh in a bar where everyone goes towards him. Number 2, Bernardo and Doku do the hustle. Now, we'll explain this, but they didn't half hustle Manchester United's back 3 and back 5. And number 3, feel the power Foden in Man City's midfield and how that triangle did for Man United. Number 4, man not well. That's not Manuel Ugarte, as Man United were blown away in there. And number 5, focused on Šeško. He did all right with some of his runs, and there was a small positive in there for Man United to take away, but only a small one.
Absolutely, Dino. Well, look, on Team Talk on Thursday, thanks everyone for watching. Really good show as that was. You got a couple of things right and a couple of things a bit wide of the mark, mainly the goalkeeper, Senny Lemens. Well, you weren't sure. You were very non-committal, which I gave you a bit of grief for.
I thought they'd go with Bayindir because of the playing out from the back. And as it turns out, the playing out wasn't really a big deal in this game.
Absolutely. But one player that we do need to talk about, it's been a while. He was so good, wasn't he, when he first came to the Premier League? He's been pretty consistent the entire time, and people just take him for granted now. That's Erling Haaland. Haaland, the magnet. Talk to me about why he was so sticky, particularly for Manchester United.
Yeah, and so there's 3 points here. There's a 3-point plan that Pep Guardiola had to break this Man United 3-4-3. And that's what everyone's talking about. Should he be sticking to this system or should he not? But every game, a manager will have a plan of how to break a team down. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I think Pep Guardiola and Pep Lijnders would have been sat there just thinking, this is hilarious. How easy that plan was carried out.
Ruben Amorim's plan.
And Luke Shaw lying on the ground there pretty much sums up Manchester United's afternoon. So the first part of this is Erling Haaland. And look, we can talk about his goals and his physicality and his unbelievable finishing till the cows come home, but that's not tactics, right? That's just ability. Yeah. But the great thing is that Haaland is got better and better and better at, and is vastly underrated at, is his movement. People think he's walking around. He's not well, maybe he is walking around, but he's not just walking around because he's being lazy.
He's walking with purpose.
Yeah, but he's walking to a position. He's walking to a position that is going to cause a problem. And what he does is actually go in the opposite direction to the ball. And that's really sort of sounds counterintuitive for a striker. He's going to get on the end of the ball when it comes in the area. But what he's doing is the setup was the wingers, which we'll come back to in a minute, the midfield 3, which we'll come back to in a minute. But the idea being that Erling Haaland has to occupy 2 players. Yep. And United fell for it hook, line and sinker. He drifts in between the left centre-back and the centre-back, or most often in this game, between the right centre-back and the centre-back, so between Yoro and De Ligt, to make the 2 of them come closer to him, and then that means there's space either side. I mean, it sounds fairly simple, but to do it in-game when the ball is being popped around in midfield is very, very clever. And there was even moments where Haaland's pointing to his other teammates about where he wants them to be, so he can almost shuffle the pack. And Man United just couldn't get the hang of it. And when it came to the goal, the first goal where...
Haaland's or Foden's?
No, Foden's goal, where he heads it in. 3 times before that happened, I'm sorry, I was sat with a Man United fan, our friend Phil, who was sat there with me as I'm going, they're going to get done here. They're going to get done here on this underlapping run. So we'll show the grab where Bernardo Silva goes wide. Haaland does the magnet job where he takes the 2 centre-backs in the opposite direction, and the gap between Matthijs de Ligt and Luke Shaw is disgraceful, quite frankly, from a defensive point of view. Do you remember the Europa League final? Brennan Johnson's goal, obviously I remember it a bit better than you. But that again, we talked about the space between Maguire and Yoro, where the two centre-backs have been separated apart. So City did exactly that. And then Doku, for the goal, was actually just a little bit opportunist. Foden had gone in that rough space before. Reinders had gone in that space before. And so twice Man United had a warning. And then Doku, in sort of broken play, found himself in that number 10 position and then thought, oh, hang on, this is what Pep's told us to do. This is the area. He drops in, pass goes in there, easy as you like. Look, he gets a bit of fortune after the bit of skill where he sends Luke Shaw for a hot dog. But it's all in the setup where they go into that space, and Bernardo and Haaland as the keys.
He did also do extremely well, to be fair to him, Doku. I know the first cross was blocked, but he reacted so quickly, got it straight back in the mixer.
Yeah. And I love the little shuffle skill that he does as well, where he sort of jumps and goes in opposite directions.
I was listening to the radio. I was at the South Coast Derby on Sunday, as you know, listening to the game on the radio, and I think they described it as like the cha-cha slide he does, or something like that, before he just nips in behind the
it's
defenders.
great fun because you're not quite sure where he's going to go. And he sort of jumps up and is he going to go left or is he going to go right? And I think Luke Shaw's still looking for him.
Yeah, exactly. A little shake of the hips and he's gone. Just quickly then, Dino, obviously you're quite damning about the defensive sort of shape there of Manchester United, calling it a disgrace, which is, quite bold, to be fair. What's the answer from a defensive point of view then? Because Luke Shaw, as the left of the three left centre-backs, is contained by Doku. He's concerned with Doku. Where the ball is, that's on his side. He's got to focus there and assume that his mates are doing the correct job behind them. Is it a case of that as the centre of the three, De Ligt, of choose your poison? Do you do what is traditional defensive sort of sound work and positional work by splitting the gap between the two centre-backs either side? Or you go, I'm up against the best number 9 in the world here, so double up is a safer option than being positionally sound, because if it's Haaland one-on-one with the right centre-back, then he wins that 7 times out of 10.
Yeah, I think we saw it in the Tottenham Man City game at the Etihad. We saw it in the Arsenal Liverpool game. In the Premier League now, you can't afford to double up because every player's involved. And so De Ligt, as you say, you choose your poison. He's absolutely as the centre of the three. I mean, Shaw's far too wide because he's been suckered in by Bernardo, which we'll come on to in a sec. But Shaw's far too wide. And Man City's plan is to stop Shaw getting back close to De Ligt, is to put one of the two attacking eights into that hole. So where Reinders goes into the hole or Foden goes into the hole, as Pep's told them to do, that means Luke Shaw can't just go narrow because he's actually got somebody to mark. So in that system, what United have got to do, and I'll do my graphic to show this, is that yes, De Ligt's got to come over to Shaw, but also the knock-on effect is that Bruno and Ugarte in midfield have got to get either Amad Diallo or Mbeumo, depending on which side of the pitch it is, back in to join them as a three. So the 3-4-3, as is being debated till the cows come home, has to turn into either a 4-4-2 defensively or a 5-4-1 defensively. But what United aren't doing is converting those two things quick enough. And then, Haaland's just thinking, well, I'll stand close to De Ligt so that means he's not going to disappear. Yoro's thinking I'll double up. And then when the goal scored, Mazraoui's not marking anybody.
No.
So there's where the extra man is. Mazraoui's over the other side because Doku's gone wandering. United come all the way across and they would have actually stopped it. But City have planned for it. It's quality.
Yeah, absolutely. Much easier, one of those things, I suppose, Dino, to sort of describe than when you're in the moment dealing with a Manchester City
but they're
attack.
international footballers and De Ligt's played hundreds of top-level games. Get across, and Luke Shaw, I'm sorry, but if I was a coach of that, he cannot play left centre-back if he's going to be that ability.
Sorry, Man United fans, you heard me try and sort of level him out a little bit, but he's not having it. So anything else then on Haaland, Dino?
No, well...
We haven't even mentioned the 2 goals he scored.
Yeah, I mean, the finishing sensational. He was unlucky with the other one. But again,
the one he missed from 3 yards?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit unlucky. He sort of dabbed it. But yeah, he deserved the hat-trick in the way that he played. And the goal that they create down the inside left channel for Haaland's first goal, Man City's second goal, is exactly the same thing where, Doku is occupied one side. Haaland's actually not thinking about getting the ball there again. He's thinking about opening up the space. But because then Foden's bit of skill, then Doku rolls his man, instinctive, he's there. And again, he swats away Luke Shaw like, I don't know, a dad playing in the under-12s. It's like, it's just in the family five-a-side when your son tries to take you down and you just swat him to one side. Not that I've ever done that.
Yeah.
And that was what it was like, Haaland v Shaw. But yeah, top-class centre-forward, and United have got to be better planned for that.
Two other players in Dino who were also majestic on Sunday for Manchester City, as they so often are, particularly the first one. Bernardo and Doku do the hustle. Now, this was one of your weekly song traps that you laid for me. Apparently, Do the Hustle's a song. If you've heard of it, let us know in the comments. I didn't have a clue, but
Do the Hustle.
I'm sorry, I'm not singing it because I only learnt the words about 4 minutes ago. Talk to me about Bernardo and Doku, who were phenomenal.
Yeah, I thought Doku was fantastic and probably, from a play perspective, deserved man of the match actually over Haaland and Foden. But he was a complete handful. And the most interesting thing about him was he didn't hug the wing. I'm going to show his touch map that he had in the Wolves and Brighton games, where what fans would expect from Doku: hugs the touchline, chalk on his boots, ball into feet, and try and beat the man up the outside. Okay,
which he does so often.
He does very often and does well. But in this game, he was given the licence to wander, and in the first 5 seconds when Man City take the goal kick, he's really close to Haaland and he creates that opportunity. So that straight away is because what Pep's thinking is Haaland's going to occupy Yoro and De Ligt, okay? And therefore, Doku, don't get isolated out on the side where Mazraoui gets an easier game by saying, right, I can help the back three and I can see Doku there. I can do both jobs. Go right in close and create that little bit of chaos. And obviously for the goal, he goes onto the other side of the pitch. His touch map in this game was like a sort of inside 8. It was almost like a Declan Rice touch map where he goes up the left-hand side and inside left. So that was really impressive and obviously a plan, okay? But the one I mentioned him in the team talk show, Bernardo Silva is Pep's favourite player for tactical changes.
Right.
Whenever they've got something they want to do slightly different, he's his man who does it. He's the one who carries out the instructions on the field. And I said in the team talk show, I suspected he might play right wing. And, fans, when they saw the team lineup, might have thought Foden was going to play on the right and Bernardo would play in the middle. But this was a plan because it was really brave. There was 3 or 4 occasions in the game where United have only just lost possession and Doku is therefore up the field. And Bernardo Silva is legging it into an attacking position, either to press the left centre-back Shaw or just to run into space. And that means Dorgu's got to go back the other way.
Quite.
Because Luke Shaw then doesn't know, is he going to go out to Bernardo? Is Doku going to get there? And again, there's where that space comes from the underlap. So, and then when Bernardo sees Doku come off his wing, Bernardo hugs his wing to keep that space open. So Bernardo's the one, even from a right wing position where he didn't touch the ball all that often, is the one who is making the shape work. And so if he sees Reinders go up the inside, Bernardo comes wide. If Reinders and Foden swap into their midfield 3, Bernardo comes inside. So I used this phrase last week, but he's the Swiss Army knife player. He is brilliant at understanding a manager's plan. And at times you look at it, the way I watch a game, you're looking at players instead of the ball. And often you think, where's he going? Why is he going over there? And then the play unfolds and you think, wow, that's just fantastic. Seeing a pass or a game unfold 2 passes before it happens, what an absolute quality player. And those two made it look like Man City had 12 and Man United only had 11.
Yeah, absolutely. Bernardo Silva in particular, he's such a wonderful footballer. I think he's so criminally underrated. But Doku, he was a bit raw when he first came in, wasn't he? And it feels really like he's sort of stepping up to become a Pep player and he's going to be there for the long term. One man, though, Dino, who, to be fair, by his own admission, and he talked about it after the game, Phil the Power Foden, Manchester City's finest academy product, absolutely loves the club, straight in to the home fans after he put City 1-0 up. Another brilliant game again, and he said he was desperate in this game to remind people or let people know that he is back after a period which, as he described, fell below his usual standards. He wants to let everyone know that he's back to world-class Phil Foden once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we watched the England game last week and we reeled off all the attacking players who were and weren't playing, and he wasn't really mentioned.
Quite.
Now, that's shocking, really, from a player of his ability. But the reason I've said Phil the Power in this, obviously the pun on Phil Taylor's nickname, but I really thought he looked strong again. There are games where you feel like he's a bit lightweight in there and he's the one with the physicality, obviously ball ability, amazing. I thought he looked powerful. I thought the way that City midfield looked as a triangle, he didn't look like he was the sort of ball-playing 10 in the 3. You know, it was Rodri at the base, obviously the best in that position, and then the way that Foden and Reinders were as a midfield 3. And it wasn't just Rodri at the base and those two ahead. This is the point I want to make on this. It was the ability of Foden and Reinders to move to make it a 2 and then a 1. And then when they got the ball, it's a 1 and then a 2. So they were sort of transferring those two things. And against Man City's midfield too, we'll show a grab of the triangle in midfield of Man City. United were lost. Absolutely lost, because what it means is what they were doing really cleverly, including Haaland, including Doku and Bernardo, but led by the midfield 3, is if United have got the ball in a defensive position, we'll have 2 banks in front of it. So Haaland, Doku and Bernardo, and then the 3 behind it. So we're not going to press them. You didn't see Man City, as I said in the preview show, herring around after the ball and becoming detached, okay? Once it happened in broken play where De Ligt got away with it and did this slide tackle in midfield and it looked like a pass through the middle, but that was just a bit of luck from United.
A football anomaly.
Yeah, it was. The rest of the game, they were connected, they were together, and it was because of that midfield 3. And Foden and Haaland were in conversation the whole time, right? And Haaland, as I said before, was pointing, getting here, and then Foden was saying back in the 3, and of course you got the comfort of Rodri behind you.
Well, that helps.
That helps. And look, we don't really need to blow smoke on Foden's ability on the ball and travelling with the ball. Fantastic. And then he saw the opportunity. He was the fastest to react when Doku got into that position, while Bruno Fernandes and Ugarte and Luke Shaw were all sort of looking about, wondering what was going on, and Foden scores a header. So, brilliant performance, and so good to see a City boy and an English player looking like he could come back to his best.
What I do like, Dino, Phil the Power, obviously a darts reference, in City's triangle, darts and snooker, with Sunsport being number 1 for both sports, of course. Absolutely brilliant. Number 4, Dino, we do have to talk about Manchester United. Sorry, City fans. Sorry, United fans as well. Man not well, Ugarte, in the centre of midfield for United. United fans, a few of them texted me before the game saying, how much does he dislike Kobbie Mainoo if he's not starting for this game? If he's not starting him now, he never will. Puts Ugarte in instead. United in the middle of the park. Not good. No,
well, just a spot from producer James before the game, before the show, who said that before the game, Kobbie Mainoo was wandering about with his laces untied, and it just showed a player that doesn't really want to play. It's the message that sends. But I tell you what, Manuel Ugarte, or Man Not Well Ugarte, did not want to play either, as in play football. He just when this happens, I often used to say this about England when we were going through the dark days. England midfielders don't pass it; they shift responsibility.
Yeah,
so
right.
They just give it to somebody else because they don't want to be the one. And if we show this here, this is a damning indictment of Manchester United's midfield, okay? So this position here with Kobbie Mainoo on the ball.
Yep, 2-0 at the time.
2-0 at the time.
Minutes.
And then he's just about to pass it to Manuel Ugarte there. Bruno Fernandes nowhere to be seen. And then look, Ahmad and Šeško aren't in particularly bad positions. I think it might be Dorgu at the back post and Šeško in an interesting position. And Ahmad's just out of shot on this right-hand side.
Ugarte in quite a lot of space just quickly
exactly.
there as well, yeah.
But just the point of this is Manchester City score from here.
Yeah.
Right? And that to me is just absolutely terrible. So, and the reason for it is, and we'll show the next grab along in a second, but the reason for it is Kobbie Mainoo gives the ball to Manuel Ugarte, and Manuel Ugarte will not pass the ball between the lines.
Right.
He will not pass it between the lines. And that means Bernardo Silva goes to press the next pass, which goes to Luke Shaw, and then from there, Erling Haaland in this first shot is there. And Erling Haaland is the one who ends up running through 1v1. He's gone past 4 Manchester United players to do it. And the reason for this is Man City, this again will have 100%, I wasn't in the team room, but I'm telling you 100% this would have been said. Do not press Ugarte. because he will not take the ball on the half turn and then hurt you going the other way unless you engage him. Because if he wants physicality, he's a physical player. He's not going to beat you with a piece of skill and a drop of the shoulder and go the other way, like Phil Foden would. So what Man City do in all those scenarios is they have the triangle midfield set up. They've got Bernardo Silva blocking the pass to the wing back. They've got Phil Foden blocking the pass to the number 10, and they're just going to go pass it to Ugarte. And then all Ugarte does is pass it back with a little bounce pass. And if he actually half-turned, there's a couple of occasions where Bruno Fernandes is on and the switch of plays on. But because he won't do that, either refuses or hasn't got the ability to do that, City can just comfortably sit in their shape. So if you're going to play a two-man midfield in a 3-4-3, it's got to be better than him.
Well, that's a Tactics Exposed exclusive for you right there, because loads of you in the comments think Dino is actually in the dressing room with these managers.
I'd love to be.
Exactly. Such is the level
Fly on the
of your
wall, at least.
tactical knowledge, Dino. Lots of praise for you in the comments every single week, so thanks for those. Look, point number 5, Dino, if there's any Manchester United fans still watching the video, or any Manchester City fans for that matter, Benjamin Šeško, first start. United fans have been crying out for him to start, especially in this game. You called it, said that he would, and on a dark day for United, he was maybe a small silver lining.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I as I said in the preview show in Tactics Team Talk, I thought that I wanted him to play because it felt like United needed that direct outlet and that direct ball. And there wasn't actually that many long balls played up to him, from Bayindir, but that was just from the pattern of the play. But I thought his runs were really intelligent. He looked lively. The first 15, 20 minutes, United were decent and in the game, right? And if they'd have got the first goal, we might have seen the patterns change slightly. But what happens is when, United go behind, is their two number 10s then get a bit ragged and a bit dragged upfield, which opens the midfield up. And then it makes the job of the number 9 so difficult, because is he coming to feet in between to battle Rodri to get it, or is he then going over the top? When he went over the top, I think it was a terrible refereeing decision that actually gave handball in the end, but he chested it down. It was a really good save from Donnarumma. And then there was a couple of occasions, which we'll show the runs of, where, again, a bit like Haaland, he runs in the opposite direction to the ball to open up that space for Mbeumo. And he did his job. He did what he was able to do. And I felt a little bit sorry for him a couple of times as well, because as play's building up, and they've played well through the transition phase, United, then the ball goes wide to be crossed in. And I'm thinking, watching it, Šeško's going to be there to score. And the cross just wasn't good enough. A couple of times over his head. There was one where Amad Diallo tried the spectacular. There was Mbeumo's volley from that amazing save from Donnarumma. But yeah, I thought Šeško led the line pretty well. He was outnumbered up there because United couldn't get through those phases to turn the extra man into their advantage in that formation as it's supposed to be. But promising signs, just give him a bit more of the ball.
Even as you're saying all of this, Dino, particularly the defensive stuff, if you're Manchester United, it feels like there's this sort of constant battle in the minds of defenders, particularly playing against Manchester City. And that's kind of the beauty of what I think we reveal to people in these shows, right? Is that it almost feels sometimes when we're talking about this like it's kind of set plays like NFL, right? Even though it isn't, because it's a dynamic game all the time. But even like Manchester United defenders during this whole game are sort of in this constant making a decision between like what you'd call zone coverage or man coverage in NFL defence, right? Yeah. And it feels almost impossible. And even as you're talking, then there's so many moving parts and they're all connected, aren't they? And Amorim's getting a lot of criticism for the 3-4-3 system after the game, and he's dogged, rigidly sticking to it, no flexibility. But as you were saying to me earlier on, it requires so much kind of flexible movement between the attack and the midfield and the midfield and the defence, doesn't it? But to have all of this going on in the players' minds, combined with their elite levels of fitness and coming up against Manchester City, it's so difficult to execute for teams, particularly for Man United playing against a team who are as good as City. Yeah, and I love the Thomas Tuchel quote when we talk about this. You're absolutely bang on. Thomas Tuchel's quote is that a formation, I'm paraphrasing it, but a formation is just a framework for a team to work within. Yep. And then from within that framework, you can play your passes and your moves around it. The problem for me with Man United at the moment is it's like they're cones. Right.
And they are cones in a position that Amorim wants them to be in. And when I'm on the training field with my boys' team, I'll lay out the cones,
swatting into one side.
Lay out the cones in those positions and say, right, okay, lads, that's where our starting position is when we're in shape, but then we have to move within it. And at the moment, United look like a team of cones.